Hello guys, this is Mrs. Creepypasta here today. This is the very first video to go on the channel, but it will be good. I plan to do 5 short stories for the first episode, and then do 2 videos a day with 3 short stories, and on holidays I plan to do extra. I take recommendations, even if they're your own stories. And I will now begin the very first short story, called The Call. Around 4 a.m., there was a call at a local fire station in Pensacola, Florida. When they heard an answer, they heard the screams of many people and the sound of crackling fire. The firemen yelled in astonishment for the person to tell them the location right away. They heard not just one person using the phone, but everyone they heard screaming before answering in unison. 1242 Westbrook Apartment Complex D. The firefighters all rushed over and looked in astonishment as the complex was completely unharmed. They took a precaution and evacuated everyone from the complex. Grumpy and groggy, the people living inside took their pets and children and waited outside. The firefighters did a clean run through the apartment, but before the chief firefighter was about to release the waiting owners, an explosion on the lower part of the complex occurred. Flames started appearing rapidly in all the windows, and the apartment slowly began to turn to ash and cinders. Upon further inspection, they found a gas pipe had ruptured and was ignited by a water heater's flame. The firefighters were shocked when they saw what occurred and remembered the call. When they tried to contact the number again to thank the caller, they only received the following response: "We are sorry, this number no longer exists. Perhaps you dialed a wrong number. Please hang up or try the number again, and thank you for saving them." That was the call. There's no author put on the thing, so I'm sorry I can't give credit. I will now go on to the next one, called Regret this one has an author by SmileGirl_JPEG, and this is Regret. My sister's funeral was earlier today. She was my little sister, still practically a baby. She didn't deserve to die, and not the way that she did, mangled, crushed flat, and churned under a car's wheels. They wouldn't let us see the body. I haven't told my parents it was a suicide yet. I should tell someone at least, because no one believes the driver when he tells them that she honestly did jump into the road out of nowhere. An honest man's life is being ruined because of my sister's selfishness. I told her she was being selfish, and I told her she would regret it. But I honestly didn't think she would do it. I thought she was too young to mean something as serious as that. The guilt is incredible. You wouldn't believe it. If I wasn't there for her, and I should have been. I should have helped her, and I did. I don't know if I can live with it. Maybe she had the right idea. I was right about one thing, though, her regretting it. I could hear her crying in the coffin, all the way to the surface. And that was Regret by SmileGirl_JPEG. I will now go on to My Sleeping Wife. I pull into the driveway from another late night. I enter the house to find all the lights out, as usual. My wife must already be in bed and asleep. It's late and I'm tired, so I figure I might as well go to bed too. I don't even bother turning on the lights anymore. I can navigate my way through this house blind. Besides, I don't want to wake the wife. The bedroom door creaks as it opens, and I inch my way to my side of my bed, and I crawl in. I move close to my wife and wrap my arm around her. I know she's asleep, but somehow I feel her embrace me as I hold her. I slowly drift to sleep with the love of my life asleep in my arms. I slowly begin to wake up when I find my love is no longer in my arms, or in bed for that matter. I open my eyes to see her entire side of the bed, covered in dried, crusty blood. I panic and look to the floor to see bloody footprints and drips of blood leading out of the room. I frantically get up to follow the footprints in search of my wife. As I approach the door, I decide to take one last look at the room. As I turn around, I see my once beautiful wife, sliced open and mutilated, nailed to the wall behind my bed. Beside her, painted in blood across the wall, were the words, "Thanks for holding me, but maybe next time you should turn on a light when you come in." And that was my sleeping wife. I will now go on to Under the Covers. And there's no authors that can give credit, I'm sorry. Tonight's like every other night. You lay there in the dark and silence, alone, with no company other than your thoughts. You shift and roll throughout your bed, just you and your thoughts. You ponder, you plan, and you fantasize. Anything to distract from the ringing silence that surrounds you. You hear a creak, a common sound to hear on such a still night, but you still recoil when the sound hits your ears. You hear this sound almost like every night, but the sheer unexpectedness sets off a trigger in your head as paranoia takes over. The thoughts that once illuminated your mind are now darkened. What was once pleasure and success has now turned to demons and killers. The silence that your mind was distracting you from has now become the focus. You lay there, silent, listening for any obscure sound, hoping that the silence doesn't leave. Every little noise adds to your paranoia, and silence lingers as you wait the next unexpected occurrence. You're too afraid to open your eyes at the thought of seeing anything your mind can conjure. You lay there, alone in fear. The fear builds in your mind as you try to find a quick escape from anything it creates. You revert to your childhood solution, hiding under the covers. You pull the blanket over your head and lay in silence. You hear noises, but they don't seem as scary. But if you put up with it, the heat builds up under your blanket, and if you put up with it, it's simply for the comfort it supplies. You begin to calm down and relax, and revert to your usual logical self. It's just you and your thoughts again, alone, under your blanket. You think of how silly it was to get scared and work up over a silly little noise. Eyes closed, you lift the blanket off of your face as the built-up heat is released. You breathe a sigh of relief and roll over, only to hear a deep, grating voice whisper, "Oh, there you are," as the sound of footsteps creeps towards your bed. And that was Under the Covers. I will do one more for this episode, and then I'm getting off of here. The next one is Lights in the Distance. A young man suffering from insomnia was trying to fall asleep one night. After many minutes, he was still awake as it got more and more late. He turned on his side and looked out the window, noticing 2 streetlights in the distance. He rested his eyes on them and soon fell asleep. The next night, he found himself once kept again awake by his sleep disorder. Remembering the remedy he tried the night before, he turned to his side and looked out the window for the 2 streetlights. He found them and once again fell asleep peacefully. The next night, his sleeping troubles were back, but he simply looked out the window at the streetlights and he rested his eyes on them. Tonight they were flickering every few seconds. He assumed that the bulbs would soon burn out. As his eyes began to fall shut, the lights finally burnt out. He woke up in the morning refreshed as he looked out the window towards the streetlights, hoping somebody would come to fix them. However, as he looked, he noticed something odd. There weren't streetlights there. He leaned closer to the window to double-check, but still, the streetlights were nowhere to be found. Then he looked down and noticed small claw marks on the window, still, as if something were perching there. His insomnia got worse. And that was Lights in the Distance. This has been Mrs. Demonix Pasta. I will see you next time, and stay creepy.